Orbital Elevator Katsura stands 36,000 kilometers tall, anchored to a platform in the Yamato Basin and pinned at the top to a counterweight station in geostationary orbit. Its tether is 740 tons of braided carbon nanotube fiber, each strand thinner than a human hair and stronger than anything the galaxy has seen a species manufacture by hand. 312 people built it over 23 years. At over 6 hours station time on a Wednesday, a cartel called Tesseraim Industrial files a sovereign resource claim on the elevator and its orbital corridor. The Hegemony Trade Authority recognizes the claim within 4 hours. The legal basis is a mineral rights provision in the original survey charter that the Human Construction Consortium did not read carefully enough because they were busy building an elevator. The crew receives a 90-day severance and a commendation from the Trade Authority for their contribution to regional infrastructure. 312 people who spent a generation threading carbon through the sky are given 3 months of pay and a letter. Chief Engineer Yuki Oshiro is 57 years old. She arrived at the Katsura project at 34, a structural dynamics specialist, and she has not left the platform for more than 14 consecutive days in 23 years. She knows the elevator the way a surgeon knows a patient, not from the charts, from the sound it makes at different tensions, the way the tether sings when the counterweight shifts, the particular vibration at Junction 7 that means the thermal expansion joints need reseating, which they do every 11 days, which she has done personally 622 times. On her last day, she walks the base inspection route. 14 kilometers of catwalk, 431 checkpoints, each one a joint or a coupling or a sensor housing that she has personally inspected on a rotating schedule for 2 decades. She touches each one as she passes it. She finishes the walk at 1740. She opens the maintenance log, writes the date, the ambient temperature, the tether tension reading, and 2 words.
All nominal.
She closes the log and places it on the desk in the control room. The cartel administrator assigned to the facility is reading a supply manifest. He does not pick up the maintenance log.
The thermal joints at Junction 7 will need reseating in 4 days. The procedure is on page 312.
The administrator nods without looking up. Yuki walks out of the control room, down the access corridor, across the platform, and onto the transport shuttle. She does not look back. The Tesseraim cartel operates Elevator Katsura for 31 days without incident. Cargo throughput holds at 94%. Their operational report describes the transition as seamless. On day 32, the thermal expansion joints at Junction 7 seize. The procedure to reseat them is on page 312 of the maintenance log. The cartel's engineering team does not open the maintenance log. They replace the joints. The replacement takes 4 days and costs 11,000 credits. The original procedure took 90 minutes and cost nothing. On day 47, a vibration sensor at the midpoint fails to report. It is not broken. Its calibration has drifted because the weekly calibration check is listed in the maintenance log under standing weekly items, and nobody has opened that section. The midpoint is 18,000 kilometers above sea level. Sending a crew to recalibrate takes 9 days. On day 63, a man named Tanaka would have caught the counterweight's 2-degree axial drift during his morning micro-correction at 06:15, as he has done every morning for 19 years. Tanaka is not there. Nobody knows the task exists. The counterweight drifts, and the load distribution across every junction in the upper third changes by a fraction that will compound every day it goes uncorrected. By the 4th month, the cartel has spent 412,000 credits on emergency repairs. The original human maintenance budget was 61,000 per year. The difference is not competence. The cartel's engineers are trained. The difference is that maintenance performed on a schedule costs what maintenance costs, and maintenance performed after a failure costs what the failure costs, and failures compound. A thermal joint that seizes puts uneven stress on its neighbors. A vibration sensor that drifts out of calibration masks the readings of the sensors around it. A counterweight that drifts 2 degrees changes the load distribution across every junction in the upper third of the tether. Each failure is small. Each fix is expensive. And each fix, because it addresses the symptom and not the schedule, creates the conditions for the next failure. This is what a maintenance culture is. Not a manual, not a checklist. A maintenance culture is the belief, shared by every person who touches the structure, that the boring work is the work. That the inspection nobody will notice is the inspection that matters most. That a carbon nanotube tether, 36,000 kilometers long, is not a piece of engineering. It is a relationship between a structure and the people who listen to it. You cannot seize a maintenance culture. You can seize a building, a platform, a counterweight. You can file a claim and have it recognized in 4 hours. But the culture that keeps the building alive is in the hands and ears and daily habits of the people who walked away. Day 119. The cartel's chief of operations requests a complete maintenance audit. The audit identifies 407 overdue tasks, 63 classified as structural. The auditor's summary is 4 words. This was being done.
407 items. Who was doing these?
Nobody answers him because the answer is 312 people who are no longer there. The administrator stares at the audit for a long time. He stares at the cost projections, which show the elevator becoming unprofitable within 8 months at the current rate of emergency repair. He stares at the maintenance log on the shelf behind his desk. 4,312 pages, still unopened. He does not call Yuki Oshiro. Day 141. The cartel files formal charges of deliberate engineering interference against Yuki Oshiro. Their legal brief claims that the pattern of failures is too systematic to be neglected, that the cascade follows a design sequence, that the chief engineer's final inspection was not an inspection but an act of insertion. The brief runs to 200 pages. It is persuasive. It is endorsed by 3 independent structural consultants who have never set foot on the elevator. Hegemony enforcement arrives at the Tsukuba Structural Institute at 14:00 on a Tuesday. 2 officers. They find Yuki Oshiro teaching a seminar on carbon fiber stress propagation. She's in the middle of a sentence about microfracture detection. She sets down the chalk. She closes the textbook. She holds out her hands and does not ask why. She knows why. She has watched the tether tension data from public monitoring feeds every morning at 06:15, the same time Tanaka made his corrections, And she has known since week 6 that the elevator was being loved by nobody.
Ms. Oshiro performed a solo 14-kilometer inspection of the base structure on her final day. She touched 431 structural checkpoints. No supervisor was present. The subsequent pattern of failure tracks her route precisely.
He is correct. The pattern of failure does track her route. Every joint she inspected for 23 years is now failing in the order it would fail without her. What he has described, without knowing it, is not a plan. It is an absence. They bring her back to the elevator on day 147. She rides the transport in restraints, designed for people who are dangerous. She is not dangerous. She is a structural engineer who has spent 23 years listening to a building. And from the transport deck, she can hear the tether. And it sounds wrong. The harmonic she calibrated by ear every morning for 2 decades has shifted down by a quarter tone. That means the load distribution in the upper third has changed. That means the counterweight correction Tanaka made every day at 06:15 has not been made in 147 days. That means the stress on junctions 15 through 22 is not what the design specified. She knows this because she can hear it. They place her in a secure room on the base platform. She sits. She listens to the structure through the walls. She catalogs every vibration she can hear, cross-referencing them against the 23 years of reading stored in her memory. And she does not like what the elevator is telling her.
Ms. Oshiro, you understand the charges.
I understand the failures. What is the tether tension at Junction 7?
That is not relevant to this proceeding.
14.3 kilonewtons per strand. That is the design spec. If you need to look it up, you have already told me everything about what happened to this elevator.
You performed an unsupervised inspection of 431 structural points. Within 90 days, 63 of those points registered failures. The probability of that correlation occurring without deliberate interference is less than 1 in 400,000.
The probability of those points failing without daily maintenance is 1.
The administrator stares at her. She does not look away. She does not raise her voice. She has the sentence structure of a maintenance log. Subject, measurement, condition. No adjectives, no appeals. The facts are the argument.
Our consultants disagree.
Your consultants have never stood on this platform. Ask them what the tether sounds like at nominal tension. Ask them what Junction 7 feels like through your boots when the thermal joints are properly seated. Ask them where Tanaka stands at 6:15 every morning to make the micro-correction that keeps the counterweight aligned, and why that correction is not in any manual, because Tanaka learned it from the engineer who held the post before him, who learned it from the one before that, for 23 years, hands to hands.
The administrator does not respond to this. He returns to his legal brief. The interrogation continues for 3 more hours. He asks the same questions in different configurations. She gives the same answers in the same words. She does not tire of this, because she spent 23 years reseating the same thermal joints every 11 days. And patience is not a thing she runs out of. Day 149, 3:17 station time. A microfracture propagates through the outermost load-bearing strand at Junction 19, 18,000 kilometers above the ocean. A microfracture in carbon nanotube fiber does not grow slowly. It propagates at the speed of sound in the material, which is 14 kilometers per second. The strand fails in less than a second. The remaining 739 strands absorb the redistributed load, but the stress margins at junctions 17 through 21 drop below design specification. The automated system seals emergency bulkheads across a 3-junction span. Standard protocol. The bulkheads are designed to isolate compromised sections until repair crews arrive. But there are 3 people inside the sealed section. In the mid-tether maintenance bay at Junction 19. They are on a calibration run that was supposed to take 4 hours. They have 47 minutes of air remaining in the sealed compartment before the recyclers fail. One of the 3 is a man named Tanaka. He is 61 years old. He performed the 0615 counterweight correction every morning for 19 years. He was one of 13 original crew members the cartel retained as technical advisors, because the cartel's own engineers could not locate several systems without someone who knew where they were. He is calm. He reads the air gauge. He knows what 47 minutes remaining means, and that no one outside this room knows how to reach them before it runs out.
This is Tanaka at Junction 19 Maintenance Bay. 3 souls. Reserve air 47 minutes. The manual bulkhead release is behind panel C7, port side, below the junction housing. It will be in the chief engineer's supplemental drawings, not the main schematics.
A cartel engineer named Voss volunteers to reach the sealed section through a service conduit that runs parallel to the main shaft. He is 24 years old, graduated 3rd in his class from the Tesserim Technical Academy, and he has been on the elevator for 71 days. He is competent. He has read every manual the cartel provided. The manuals the cartel provided do not include the chief engineer's supplemental drawings, because those drawings were in the maintenance log, and the maintenance log was never opened. The service conduit passes through a pressure boundary at Junction 18. On the far side of that boundary, the section between junctions 18 and 19 has partially decompressed. Voss does not know this because the pressure sensor on the conduit side of the boundary was one of the 407 overdue maintenance items. It reads nominal. It has been reading nominal since day 47, when its calibration drifted, and nobody recalibrated it. Voss forces the pressure door at the boundary. The differential is 3 atmospheres. The conduit decompresses in less than 2 seconds. The door tears out of his hands and strikes the conduit wall behind him. He is thrown backward 11 meters and strikes a structural beam at the base of his skull. He is dead before the emergency seal re-engages. He is 24 years old. He was competent. He did not know the building. The cartel's operations center receives the notification at 0331. Junction 19 crew, trapped, 41 minutes of air remaining before the recyclers die. Service conduit, breached and resealed. Engineer Voss, dead. The operations chief looks at the structural schematic on his screen and does not know where else to send someone. Every alternate route passes through the same compromised sections. The pressure is dropping in the corridors between junctions 17 and 20, and his team does not know which boundaries are holding and which sensors are lying. 3 people are dying 18,000 kilometers above the ocean, and no one in the operations center knows how to reach them. Yuki Oshiro, in her detention room on the base platform, hears the alarms change pitch. She knows what that change means. She has heard it in drills. She has never heard it for real. The administrator comes to her detention room at 03:33. He does not knock. He opens the door and finds her standing, facing him, because she has been listening to the elevator for 6 hours and she already knows.
3 people are sealed in the Junction 19 maintenance bay. They have 39 minutes of air remaining. We have lost an engineer attempting to reach them. We do not know a safe route.
I know the route.
The charges stand. This does not change your legal situation.
I did not ask about the charges. 3 people have 39 minutes of air left. Release my hands.
He releases the restraints. She rubs her wrists once, briefly, and walks past him into the corridor. She does not wait for permission. She does not ask for equipment. She turns left toward the base of the tether, toward the maintenance catwalk. She walked 14 kilometers of every day for 23 years, and she starts climbing. The maintenance catwalk inside Elevator Katsura's tether was designed by Yuki Oshiro. She wrote it into the original engineering spec 23 years ago, against the objections of the budget committee, who called it a redundant system. The main cargo track carries personnel to any junction in under an hour. The service elevator reaches the midpoint in 40 minutes. The maintenance catwalk is a ladder inside a tube, 18,000 kilometers of rungs and handholds and emergency hatches, accessible only on foot. And it exists because Yuki Oshiro insisted that a structure this tall needed a way to reach any point using nothing but a human body. She climbs. She is 57 years old, and she has not climbed above Junction 3 in 4 months. The gravity gradient along the tether drops as she ascends, from near surface at the base to a fraction of a G at the midpoint. But the first 8,000 meters are still Earth normal. And 8,000 meters of vertical ladder is 8,000 meters of vertical ladder. Her hands are soft from 4 months of holding chalk instead of rungs. By Junction 4, she is bleeding from the right palm. She does not stop. She passes Junction 7. She reaches under the housing without looking and touches the thermal expansion joints. They are seized again. She can feel it through her fingers. She does not stop to reseat them. There is no time. She passes Junction 11, and the gravity begins to ease. She climbs faster now, hauling herself upward through sections where the emergency lighting has failed, navigating by touch, by memory, by the sound the structure makes at each junction. She knows every creak, every harmonic, every temperature gradient. She built this catwalk. She walked it 622 times. She can feel where she is by the vibration in the rungs. At Junction 15, the air changes. She can feel the pressure dropping. The sections above have partially decompressed from the bulkhead seals, and the catwalk tube is not perfectly airtight. She is climbing into thinner air, and the pressure is falling with every junction. She won't make it breathing like this. She seals the emergency hatch behind her at Junction 16, which buys her another 2 junctions of breathable atmosphere. And she keeps climbing. Her hands are bleeding from both palms now. Her arms are shaking. She grips the rungs with her forearms braced against the tube walls, distributing the load across her body, a technique she learned from climbing this catwalk in the first year, when her hands were new. Junction 19. She reaches the sealed bulkhead at 04:02. She has climbed 18,000 kilometers in 29 minutes, which is not physically possible in full gravity, but the gravity gradient along the upper tether drops to less than 1/10 of a G past Junction 14, and Yuki Oshiro has known the gradient at every junction by heart since the day she computed it during the original design phase. She calculated the climb at 31 minutes. She has 2 minutes of margin. The air reserve on the other side of this bulkhead has 9 minutes left. Panel C7, port side, below the junction housing. Tanaka told the operations center exactly where it was. Nobody in the operations center knew what it looked like, or what it did, because the manual bulkhead release was not in the main schematics. It was in the chief engineer's supplemental drawings, a set of contingency overrides that Yuki Oshiro designed into the original architecture and recorded in the maintenance log and nowhere else. She pulls the panel cover with her right hand, and the skin tears further, and she does not notice. The manual release is a mechanical lever. No electronics, no code. A physical connection between a handle on one side of the bulkhead and the locking bolts on the other. She designed it analog because an electronic release requires power, and a section that has lost pressure may have lost power, and a backup that depends on the thing it is backing up is not a backup. She braces her feet against the wall, grips the lever with both bleeding hands and pulls. It has never been actuated. It fights her. She hauls on it with everything her 57-year-old body has. Something in her left shoulder tears. The lever moves. The bolts retract. The bulkhead unseals.
Yuki.
All nominal. I came back.
Tanaka and the 2 technicians emerge from the maintenance bay with 7 minutes of air remaining. Tanaka has a laceration across his forehead from debris thrown during the initial fracture. He is bleeding, but stable. He looks at Yuki's hands wrapped in strips torn from her own jumpsuit, and he does not say anything about them, because in 23 years of working beside her, he has learned that she does not discuss her hands. They descend together. Slowly. Yuki cannot grip the rungs anymore, so Tanaka fashions a harness from the maintenance bay's tool webbing and lowers her through the low-gravity sections, which is most of the distance. In the higher gravity sections below Junction 4, she walks, because the catwalk has a walkable surface at the base, and she has walked it 622 times before. Voss's body is recovered from the service conduit at Oro 640. He is transported to the base platform and placed in the medical bay. He is covered with a standard-issue thermal blanket, which is white, and someone from the cartel crew folds his tool bag and sets it beside him, which is the only funeral available on a structure 18,000 kilometers from the nearest ground. The charges against Yuki Oshiro are dropped at 0900. The administrator files the withdrawal himself. The legal brief's central argument that the pattern of failure was too systematic to be accidental has proven its own rebuttal. What failed was everything she maintained. What failed was everything she loved. The pattern is not a design. It is a portrait of a practice, and the practice walked out the door 149 days ago. The Tesserum cartel contacts the construction consortium 17 days later. The terms of return are not negotiated by Yuki Oshiro. She is in a medical facility, and her left shoulder will take 4 months to heal, and the nerve damage in her right hand will never fully resolve, and she will reseat the thermal joints at Junction 7 on the day she returns, even if she has to do it one-handed, because they will be overdue. The terms are negotiated by the consortium's legal team. Full reversion of the sovereign claim, reinstatement of all 312 crew members at original grade, payment of all medical costs, including Yuki Oshiro's shoulder reconstruction, and the ongoing treatment for Voss's family, because Voss's family exists, and he was 24, and he did not know the building. Yuki Oshiro returns to Elevator Katsura on day 263. She walks the base inspection route first, 14 kilometers, 431 checkpoints. She touches each one with her left hand because her right cannot close fully around the tags. Some of them she stands at for a long time. She opens the maintenance log. She turns past the months of blank pages. She writes the date. She writes the ambient temperature. She writes the tether tension at Junction 7, which is 12.9 kilonewtons per strand, which is not 14.3, which means the work is not done.
All nominal is not the reading. All nominal is the promise.
There is a shrine in Ise, in the country Yuki Oshiro's family came from, that has been rebuilt every 20 years for 14 centuries. Not because it breaks, because the practice of rebuilding it is how the knowledge survives. The carpenters do not consult plans. They learn by standing beside the ones who rebuilt it last time, who stood beside the ones before that, hands to hands 1400 years back. The elevator is not a shrine, but the practice is the same. And when the cartel seized Elevator Katsura, they seized a tether, and a platform, and a counterweight, and a corridor of space 36,000 kilometers long. They did not seize the 1,100 daily acts of care that kept it standing. They did not ask who maintained it, because they did not understand that the answer to that question was the only thing the elevator needed. Among the crew who returned was a structural biologist named Sato. He had spent the Seizure months on a contract survey mission to a dead moon, expecting 6 weeks of field work. The supply ship never came. When the rescue arrived 400 days later, they expected remains. They found a shelter, a shaved face, and a garden. 11 plants in the regolith, watered by hand, each one labeled in precise handwriting. He apologized for the state of the place.